Hello and welcome back to GP Fans on YouTube. As always, I am Luther. It's been a while, guys, hasn't it? And a lot has changed in that time. I mean, Lando Norris is leading the title quite significantly as well by quite some margin, 24 points over Oscar Piastri. And Oscar Piastri looks completely unrecognizable. Max Verstappen has continued to cut down his gap, but now it looks like he's about to run out of time. That gap is 49 points to Lando Norris at the top of the standings with only 3 races left to cut it down. Can he do it? It will take a miracle and maybe some DNFs along the way to help him do that. But we're going to get to the title race and we're going to get to the racing that we've seen in the Americas in a bit, because there's only one place to start, and it really irritates me with the fact that we're having to start there, and that is at Ferrari, following John Elkan, the Ferrari president's comments aimed at Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so speaking at an Olympic sponsorship event at Rome on Monday, following the Brazilian Grand Prix double DNF, John Elkan said this, and I quote, "If we look at the season in F1, we can say we have mechanics who are winning the championship with the performances they're putting in, particularly with everything they're doing in our pit stops. If we look at our engineers, the car has undoubtedly improved. If we look at the rest, it's not up to standard. We have drivers who need to focus more and talk less. Because we still have important races to come, and finishing second in the Constructors' Championship isn't impossible." Now, quickly. He's not wrong about the pit stops. Ferrari just won the pit stop championship. And last season, we had some of the fastest pit stops all season. We are very quick and have improved greatly under Fred Vasseur in the pit stops. That was one of the key things that he wanted to focus on as soon as he became Ferrari team principal. But to say that the car's improved just screams ignorance and screams that he's not watching the races. Anyway, very quickly after, the drivers who usually post after the race posted. Charles Leclerc said, "Disappointed to come back home with nearly no points at all for the team in what is a critical moment of the season to fight for second place in the Constructors' Championship. It's uphill from now, and it's clear that only unity can help us," emphasis on the unity, turn that situation around in the last 3 races. "We'll give it all as always." And Hamilton said, "I back my team. I back myself. I will not give up. Not now, not then, not ever. Thank you, Brazil, as always." There was 2 responses for me, especially with the unity that Charles Leclerc said and Hamilton saying he backs himself and he backs the team. He will not give up, directed at John Elkan's criticisms of them. Now, I don't think it's false that Ferrari have 2 of the most vocal drivers when it comes to speaking about their displeasures with the car or speaking about displeasures with things that happen in the race weekend. But they're also 2 of the best drivers. So to say that your drivers need to be quiet, focus more and talk less, you have 2 of the highest performing drivers, one of the best drivers of all time, and a driver who Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc called the most talented driver he's come across in Formula One. So you have the most successful driver in Formula One in Lewis Hamilton, and a driver who one of the most successful drivers in Formula One history is called the most talented driver he's ever came across. And you're telling them that they're the ones that need to be quiet and focus. So following Elkan's quotes, there were reports that his quotes were directed towards Hamilton's post-race comments, in which he referenced that what was once a dream for him, driving for Ferrari, has quickly turned out to become a nightmare due to the results that he's been seeing in this season with Ferrari. He's had a very horrid time, and I'm sure Ferrari fans are sticking with Lewis during this time because this season's not been easy for him. The report stated that the honeymoon was already over, but now it seems that there is a falling out despite the multi-year contract that Lewis Hamilton has signed. Elkann is disappointed performance-wise, certain attitudes, mistakes, and lost chances. I think it's very key to point out the fact that John Elkann is actually the person in Ferrari that led the charge to get Lewis Hamilton. It wouldn't surprise me if there were many people in Ferrari that were very happy with the stability that Ferrari had in their lineup with Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. A lineup that worked very well together. But Elkann led the charge to get this multi-million-dollar contract for Lewis Hamilton, the most lucrative contract in Formula One. And before the season's over, he's already got a fractured relationship with Hamilton. Now, for my take as a lifelong Ferrari fan, and you're going to see me looking at my notes probably a bit now, guys, because I want to make sure that I hit every single point that I noted down when preparing for this. For me, John Elkan perfectly showed the world everything that's wrong with the team that I love, with Ferrari, and why we have failed to be successful for so long. Elkann's quotes reminded me that despite it being over 30 years since Ferrari sacked Alain Prost for comparing the car to a truck, we are the exact same prideful team that do not listen to great drivers when given feedback on the team and on the car. We are the exact same prideful team that think because we have the horse and the crest on the front of our cars, we're going to be good regardless of what happens. This is the same team that I watched ignore Alonso and criticize Alonso publicly to defend themselves when giving him terrible cars. Criticize Alonso during some qualifying sessions and during some races because he publicly criticized them. So they would say, no, it was the drivers today. Not that it was Alonso and Massa today. Not the car. This is the same team that repeatedly fought with Sebastian Vettel due to his public and private criticisms of the team and of the car. Even when they gave him and Leclerc one of the worst Ferraris ever in 2020 and the worst Ferrari of my lifetime in 2020. And kicked both him and Alonso out of the team eventually. And on top of that, after Singapore, this season and during Singapore, Charles Leclerc was constantly critical of the team, vocally to the team, in the car. When Antonelli overtook him, he said, don't even complain. He said that to his engineer, don't even complain, because he just pretty much let Antonelli pass because he was having to lift and coast for the majority of the race. And then following the race, at a track that he loves, by the way, he loves Singapore and he constantly says that when he goes into Singapore. He complained about how the car felt. And reports followed that in Maranello, they were extremely unhappy with Leclerc's criticisms of the car and said that their poor performance in Singapore was down to execution at the track. It was down to execution at the track, even though Lewis Hamilton pushed that car for about 3 laps to try and catch the Mercedes. And his brakes instantly failed. But it was due to trackside execution. So some things never change. Those were examples from early 2010s, mid to late 2010s, early 2020, and 2025, and early 90s. There's only one gap in between there, and that's the time when Michael Schumacher was at the team. So let's talk about that. At the start of the century, Ferrari had an 8-season window where we won 6 World Drivers' Championships and a 9-season window where we won 7 Constructors' Championships. The 6 World Drivers' titles are the only titles we've won in the last 46 years. In that time, Williams, McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull have all won more. Red Bull have raced for 21 of those seasons and Mercedes 16. Schumacher and his 5 straight titles to start the century are the only prolonged period of success Ferrari have had since the late 70s. Schumacher and Alberto Ascari are the only Ferrari drivers ever to win consecutive drivers' championships. So how did Ferrari manage to get that success at the start of the 2000s that has clouded people into thinking we're this team that have constant success when we've only had a period of 5 years where we won consecutive championships and 1951 and 52 where we won consecutive championships? Other than that, Ferrari don't win consecutively. The funny thing is, the reason that Ferrari had that success is a secret pact between key figures in the team that silenced internal conflict that plagued Ferrari previously and still plagues Ferrari to this day. And we're seeing it plague Ferrari right now with Elkann's quotes. Jean Todt, Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, and Michael Schumacher had a simple pact. If Ferrari had a problem with one of them, they had a problem with every single one of them. Those four were four key figures in the team. And them four combining and them four having such a lust for success, they silenced every single person externally. The key figures in Ferrari that were higher than them could not cause conflict if they disagreed with something that Ross Brawn did, if they disagreed with something that Jean Todt or Michael Schumacher did. Because if they did that publicly, they had to answer to the other three. The same way that if John Elkan had done that to one of them, what he's done right now, he would have to answer to all four of them. That external pressure was completely negated. And that's the only period in time in Ferrari's history where that external pressure was actually negated. And they won 5 straight championships. They won a Constructors' Championship in 99 as well on top of that. So they won 6 straight Constructors' Championships, 5 straight Drivers' Championships, 7 Constructors' Championships in 10 years. And it's no surprise that in 2006, Michael Schumacher retired. Ross Brawn left straight after. And in 2007, Jean Todt left. And in 2007, Jean Todt's last season, that's the last time Ferrari won a World Drivers' Championship. Is there a coincidence? Absolutely not. Elkann's quotes are extremely triggering, to me at least, due to one thing more than anything. He creates this media storm surrounding Ferrari that wouldn't have been there if he'd been silent. If he doesn't speak, the discourse following Brazil is Max Verstappen's legendary drive, 1, and 2, Lando Norris pretty much securing the title. Because it's going to take a massive collapse by Lando, which he could possibly do, for Piastri or Max Verstappen to win the title now. Any other successful team would have had this happen. If McLaren had something like this, they would sweep it under the rug. If Mercedes had something like this, they would sweep it under the rug. Red Bull had their first 0-point scoring weekend in years at Austria earlier this season. They weathered the storm and moved on by the next race. At Canada, no one was even talking about it. It was like it didn't happen. It's also just completely wrong. Like I said, I agree with him with the pit stops and credit to Fred for getting the personnel and for improving that. But the car improving is absolutely ridiculous and it just proves ignorance. He watch the races? Are the people that are briefing him on the races that he clearly doesn't watch, are they watching the races? Are they just looking at that something? I don't know. Oh, they were quick in practice. Why aren't they quick in the race? Because Ferrari tend to be very good on Fridays. Lewis Hamilton is struggling. He flatly is struggling and has been all season. We see glimpses of some stuff. He had a very good first lap for the sprint, but in the race, it wasn't that good. He struggled in both qualifying sessions in Brazil. And Charles is performing miracles. Like, the car is terrible. Leclerc having 7 podiums in that car is absolutely insanity. It's insane to me. So for him to credit everybody in the setup and pretty much point to our drivers saying that they're the people that need to improve if we're going to secure second in the championship is absolutely ridiculous. Second, it's not going to happen. Mercedes are way too far ahead of Ferrari now. But 4th is what we deserve. 4th is truly what we deserve. Like, if we were to finish second, it would cover over the cracks and it wouldn't show the reality of what this season has been. We are currently 4th in the Constructors' title, behind what you could call for most of the season a 1.5 driver team in Mercedes. Antonelli is improving now, but for most of the season, it's been a 1.5 driver team. And Red Bull, which is a 1 driver team. We're behind those two when we have one of the most talented driver pairings of all time. It cannot just be the drivers then. And if he's going to speak about the drivers, if John Elkan is going to speak about the drivers, let's evaluate his time as Ferrari president. Since becoming Ferrari president in 2017, John Elkan has had 8 seasons in charge. 6 drivers, if you include Ollie Behrman's cameo in Saudi last season, and the 6 drivers have a combined 12 World Drivers' Championships. Only one of them getting it with Ferrari, and that came before John Elkan was in charge, and that's Kimi Räikkönen in 2007. In those 8 seasons, we've had 15 race wins, 0 titles, and 3 victoryless seasons. In the 22 years before John Elkan was in charge of Ferrari, we had 2 victoryless seasons. So how is he performing as boss, as head of the ship? If Ferrari is to live up to the brand, because frankly we have not, and stop expecting to be great simply because we have that horse on the front of our cars, we need to have the most important people in the company not think like John Elkan. Not be so detached from the actual ongoings on track. He kept referencing the WEC team doing so well. That's a completely different entity. The only similarity is the brand. And Giovinazzi, because he used to be a Ferrari reserve driver, I guess. That's another similarity. Ferrari is special. Like, Ferrari truly is a special team. But what makes Ferrari special is the passion. The passion from the mechanics, the passion from the engineers, the passion from every single person who walks around with that red gear on. That is what makes Ferrari special. But what we can't allow to happen is that passion cloud members of the team. You can't be complacent because you expect Ferrari to be brilliant because of that team and just think that because we're Ferrari and think that we're going to be great simply because we're Ferrari, because that's not the case. That is not the case. We need to humble ourselves, but also keep that love. Use that love the same way Jean Todt did, the same way Ross Brawn did, the same way Michael Schumacher did, to want to be successful with the team. You're seeing Lewis Hamilton come into that team, and Lewis loves Ferrari. You can tell, bro. And he comes in and he sees what is wrong with Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton drove for a team that came together in 2010, purchasing Brawn. And I know Brawn came from Honda, but Mercedes realistically became Mercedes in 2010. And he saw them develop into the most success. He was part of the most successful period in Formula One history, even triumphing that of Ferrari in the early 2000s. And he comes into Ferrari and he tells the team, this is what you need to do to be successful. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And John Elkan and other people in Ferrari do not like that he's doing that. That to me is mental. And with mentalities like that, we will never succeed. It's that simple. We will always be 4th fastest, 3rd fastest, 2nd fastest, 4th fastest, 3rd fastest, and occasionally have years like 2020 where we're 6th fastest. Because there's an expectation of us being good just because we wear that. We have that red car and we have the horse and the yellow badge behind it. And it's pathetic. But there were races. So let's talk those races. I believe the last time we spoke was before COTA, before Mexico, and before Brazil. Those races were an interesting set of races. Max Verstappen had what was a perfect weekend at COTA, especially with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri's crash in the sprint, which he turned into a victory. And then he went on to win the actual full-length Grand Prix as well. He cut the gap significantly that weekend and made people, including me, think, oh God, this title charge is actually on, and continued to cut the gap to at least Piastri in Mexico. But Lando Norris bounced back very well in Mexico. Dominant win, biggest margin of victory this season, and went ahead of Oscar Piastri, who continued to crumble again in Mexico. Lando Norris then took the lead of the championship by 1 point and headed into Brazil, a sprint weekend with a 1 point lead. Where Lando Norris then, similar to Max Verstappen, had the perfect weekend. First in every single session, won the sprint, won the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri crashes in the sprint, his second straight DNF in the sprint, finishes 5th in the full-length Grand Prix. And Lando Norris leaves the weekend with a 24-point gap to his teammate, outscoring him by 23 points in the sprint weekend. It's been over 2 months since Oscar Piastri stood on a podium. Oscar Piastri left Zandvoort with a commanding lead, over 30 points over his teammate. And now he sits 24 points behind him. And seemingly needing a lot to win the championship. I mean, Oscar Piastri would have to win the final 3 Grand Prix, at least, if he wants a hope at winning the championship. And if he wins the sprint as well, he wins the championship. If Lando Norris finishes second in every single event and Oscar Piastri finishes first in every single event left, Oscar Piastri wins the title by 1 point. That's what Oscar Piastri has given himself to do. And it's so disappointing because me and Nicholas came here and spoke so many times and we had so much confidence and so much praise for Oscar Piastri. But this last period, since the summer break, he's been unrecognizable. Mistakes that he wasn't making. Looks like he's overdriving the car. At times he says he feels like he's going quick and the pace isn't there. And that's so alarming. And Lando Norris has done the complete opposite. He's impressed me so much. I think Lando has been spectacular, especially in this run-in. He's been absolutely magnificent. He's doing what he needs to do. He's winning races when he needs to win them, and he's just quicker than his teammate. We always spoke about when Lando's high, his highs are so high, but when he's low, his lows are so low. And right now he's on a high, and you're seeing that point proven. And Oscar Piastri needs to find a way to get close to his teammate, because even before he got the 10-second penalty, when he was in second, he couldn't touch Lando Norris. He was out of DRS so quickly, he didn't lay a finger on him. It was like Lando in Spain when he couldn't get near Oscar Piastri. It's just a shame. Hopefully he does win a couple of races, because it would be nice to go into the finale with Oscar having a realistic chance at the win, not having no chance and needing Lando to finish like 10th or something. It would be nice if Oscar needs a win to win the title. Whoever wins the race wins the title at Abu Dhabi. But the way he's going, I just can't see it happen. Max Verstappen, it's been a legendary effort, but I think it's too far for him now. That P17 pit lane to third was absolutely incredible, but you can't expect him to come back from 49 points with 3 Grand Prix. You need Lando Norris to have a DNF, and banking on a DNF is wishful thinking, because in this era of Formula One, reliability DNFs, they're not common. And the McLarens just seem too quick to be involved in any collisions with other drivers. They're normally too far ahead of that to happen. The races left, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, they suit the McLaren. He's going to have way too much to do. And it was a drive of a champion in Brazil. I give Max Verstappen so much credit for that. I cannot believe that he actually managed to get to P3, and people are somehow minimizing what he did. I don't know how. He just constantly pulls out these drives. Max Verstappen and Interlagos are a match made in heaven. It's wonderful, and I can't wait to see what he does next year there. But he's left himself too much, unfortunately. I think Lando Norris left these 3 races in South and North America and Central America with the title. I don't believe Oscar Piastri has what he needs to win the title, which is a shame, because I really want this battle to go down the wire, to the wire. Oscar, prove me wrong. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my Ferrari rant, and we'll be back here speaking about what happens in this final triple header at the conclusion of the season. It's been Luther. It's been a pleasure. Let me know what you think about John Elkan's comments, and let me know who you think is going to win this title in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever Nicholas drops one of his news videos. It's been a pleasure as always. Peace.